Awesome. Let me just check if we're live. It's been popped up on here. Let's have a look.
You should be. You don't trust me.
No, I like to just check. Okay, yeah, we are fantastic. So it's now live, and I like to bring it up on this without the feedback. So we are officially live. Cool. And now to see if anybody's commenting or dropping a comment in there.
Sure.
Awesome. So I'll leave that on the side. Make sure my sweet. So this is a first live, and it's episode 1. So this is a show where we decode digital marketing for your business with the emphasis on the business. Digital marketing has things like SEO, AdWords, Facebook ads, landing pages, traffic generation, lead generation, and all the other digital marketing tools that are way too confusing for small, medium, and even large business owners. So the idea of this is where we simplify digital marketing and make it applicable to your business. So welcome to the How to Market Your Business Online with myself, Harms, and Kyle. So on that note, let's get into the show. So it is Harms here, and on today's episode, Kyle and I are going to be answering the question you see at the bottom of your screen there, is how to market your property sourcing company and get more clients. So yeah, that's us. Kyle, do you want to say hi?
Hey everyone, Kyle here.
Awesome. And the idea of this show, and it's the first one, is to take a different business niche, whether it's in property, whether it's in retail, the restaurant business, or whatever it is, taking a property niche, and niche being the key word here. That'll make sense as we go through this show. And I'm not stuck on the word show yet. I'm not sure if it's going to be a podcast, if it's going to be a show, or it's going to be a Facebook Live. That will sort of reveal itself as we do more and more of these. So the idea is to focus around a specific niche and then apply that niche to our baton marketing model. And you're going to hear that term used a lot. So if you're listening to this at home and you're taking notes or you're at your desk, the word to write down is baton, BATON. And we're not talking about baton, the pole you pass in a relay race. It's an acronym for a marketing model that we've created based on lots of research and experience, and we're going to be applying a business niche to that model. So that will make sense as we go through this niche. So the first niche, I spoke to Kyle and I said, right, the first niche I'd love to talk about is, because I've got a self-interest here as well, is the property business and the niches within the property business and what online tools and techniques we can use to enhance your property business. So the first one we're going to be covering is how to get more clients as a sourcing agent. And that's how niche you're going to be making this. So it's not how to get more direct to vendor deals as a sourcing client, but as niche as how to get more clients for your sourcing business, also known as deal packaging and things like that. So why focus around property as a niche? Well, number one, we run a 12-week workshop for people who want to apply business online tools and digital marketing tools to their property business and then expand it. So we've got an amazing group of students who are going through that as well. So this is an additional resource for them, especially for those students who have a property sourcing business. It's going to be gold dust to them. They're, of course, learning at an advanced level, but this is always great to have a big picture element. Secondly, I personally invest in property myself. So I have an interest in this. And this year, we are repositioning ourselves to set ourselves up as a sourcing company. So this is of interest to get Carl's insights here as well. And then
you didn't tell me this.
I haven't told you this. That's why this is all about property sourcing episode 1.
Oh, great.
And then ultimately after this, we're going to open it up to other niches. You know, if you speak to us and say, can you please cover this business niche? It could be in any industry. You know, we've got a vast array of experience, or it's within the specific property niche, you know, raising angel finance or whatever it is. Let us know, and we will by all means do a deep dive research, pull our own experience from the property field and digital marketing field, and put on this live show, this live podcast show. To give you some context of building businesses online, that's a brand name under B Street Digital. So me and Kyle, we co-own with other co-owners, the digital marketing company B Street Digital. And to give you some context, I've got a list here, so I'm going to read through the list of people we've helped market for and consult for and advise. So property education companies, property sourcing agents in the UK and abroad, property investors, personal brands, personal development celebrities, brands and communities in general, online education companies, financial services, property construction companies, language teaching companies, coffee companies, health organizations, solicitors, Harley Street clients. We did a deep dive in 2008, a comprehensive report for Harley Street clients as well, business startups, med tech companies, letting agents, nutrition companies, currency exchange companies, franchise expansion companies, and a number of charities, including Mind, amongst others. So yes, it's extensive
sushi. Sushi's the best, man.
And a sushi company, the company that, the sushi is delicious there as well. So that's a national brand, which is really exciting. So that's one of the things is, I know we speak about niches, but what we've done in the last decade is get involved in as many different industries as possible to help ourselves grow. You know, a business is a long-term venture. So for us, digital marketing is a lifetime venture. It's not necessarily, okay, let's focus on the cash now. So for us, it was great to expand our knowledge broadly. Of course, as a company, the more niche you are, the better revenue generation there is. But the learning is limited to that niche. It can get quite boring. So it's been incredibly fun and exciting. And just a reminder before we get deep dive into this, and I'll make sure I've got a timer so we're not overrunning too much. So great, with 6 minutes, so that's a good introduction. So just as a reminder, this entire show is based on a guide we've created, and that guide will include screenshots, URL links, and other resources that could be useful. So after this show, we will then put a guide online. You can call it show notes. It can be a guide. That will be a complete debrief and transcription of what you're listening to this now. So if you're just jumping in, if you missed a part, or you're jumping in and thinking, okay, I need to apply that to my business, it's all good. We've got you covered. That'll be on the show notes, and we will post the link in a public space. We'll post it attached to this video. The show notes doesn't currently exist, but it will certainly in the next week or so. So Kyle, if you explain to them, number one, the baton model, but number two, actually, let's do it the reverse way. Number one, what we're going to be covering in today's show. And then number two, if you start to expand on what the baton model is. And then we'll go into a deep dive for sourcing agents specifically.
Sure. So as you say, today we're going to be looking at sourcing agencies, specifically how you as a sourcing agent can reach investors, people who are looking for deals. We are focusing on really very narrow, tight areas in each of these podcasts or in each of these guides, because there's so much general information out there about digital marketing, which is not useful for you as a business owner. If you are a sourcing agent, or if you are an estate agent, or if you are a builder, you want to know specifically what you can do from the digital marketing realm for your business. And nobody's really out there doing these specific guides. You'll see very generalized guides, and they're overwhelming. And digital marketing's already like a big area that's taken us years and years to master. And to expect people who are also running another business to be able to catch up and use these digital marketing tools is not very reasonable without making it extremely specific and giving you just the tools that you need. And that's what we're going to be doing in this particular guide. So today is sourcing agents. And as Harms talked about, we use something called the baton model. That's BATON, baton. Baton is a process that we take our clients through. It's also a process that we use with our own businesses to start from a business first foundation and then validate an idea all the way through using digital marketing until we're in a position where we know we can scale up, we know we can go, we can push down the accelerator and really go for it. So the B of baton is business. we do business first. So many digital marketing courses out there, or digital marketing gurus and experts forget this part. You can apply the techniques of digital marketing to any business, but if the fundamental core business itself is not sound, all you're doing is pushing down the accelerator, but you don't have your kind of engine in place. So your wheels are spinning or your engine's spinning and you're not going anywhere. So we need to make sure the business actually works. We need to work out what part of your business makes sense online, and then focus there. Very few people do this, but we kind of think it's the most important part, is to lock down the business model first before trying to speed it up using digital marketing. So that's B for business. The second is A, audience. This is, okay, we have a business, now we want to start telling the world about it. So we have a message about our business. How do we get that out into the world? Digital marketing is fantastic for this because we have the internet, which is basically the world's largest communication tool. However, there are so many ways to tell people what it is we offer, what value we have for the world. So we're going to be giving you like one way to do this for your particular niche, the one that we know works. So instead of you having to worry about YouTube and Facebook and SEO and all of these different things, we're just going to narrow down on one that you can go ahead with and start to get some traction. So that's audience. You have your message and you're going out into the world and saying, this is me, this is what I do. That's audience. The next one is T for tribe. So BAT, we're at T, halfway through. Tribe is about not just telling the world what it is you do, but gathering around you the people who actually care what you do. And this is this is not done that much in digital marketing. People tend to just go wide to as many people as possible and hope that this large group will buy. Instead, we're going wide, we're telling people this is what we do, we're giving them value, and then we're attracting to ourselves a smaller percentage of those people in order to bring them into our tribe and to give them more value and kind of warm them up through the sales process. That gets us to O. So BATON. O is offer. This is where we actually make the sale. Now, most people jump straight to this, and this is why online you get a lot of adverts which are just in your face, and it's about saturation marketing and showing your advert to as many people as possible, as many times as possible. It doesn't really work, and it's expensive, really expensive. So we only get to the selling part, the offer part, once we've already built up that audience, we've built up that tribe, and now we're saying, okay, we've given you value, you like what we do, you trust us, we are an authority in this particular area. By the way, I have this offer, I have this new product, I have this new service. Are you interested? And at this point, it's much easier to make a sale because we've built that trust already. And sales is really just about trust. Finally, BATON, N is for network. This is where we scale up. We have made sure we have a solid business. We've got it out to a large audience. We have built a tribe of people who actually care about what it is we do. We've made an offer to them. We've started to generate revenue. As soon as this system is sustainable, that's when we can push down the accelerator and really go for it. And that's what network's about. It's about scaling. We won't be going too much into that in this particular guide, because we just want to give you a core fundamental model that's going to work, and then you can worry about scaling that up in the future. But right now you just need something that works, and that's what we'll cover. So that's
awesome, Carl. Thanks for that. Right, so in the host chat, I've sent you a link. So let me just talk to them. Whilst you bring that up in the background, you can flip it out. And if you scroll down, we've actually got the diagram of Baton. So I'll talk to them exactly about what's the key thing they're going to learn in each section, and then we're going to dive into that. So if you bring that up. If you're listening to this right now, in the B section, the business section, we're going to be ensuring you understand your property niche as a property sourcing agent, and ensure your focus is in the right place in regards to advertising that business. And number 2 is the audience section. In the audience section is ultimately how to get more clients to see you as a sourcing business, as a sourcing brand. Now, thirdly is tribe. And the tribe element is focused on the best way to build trust and likability with your audience. And these are the people who will ultimately like and trust you. So in the audience part, we're building that likability and trust factor. Now in the tribe part, we've got a thumbs up from them, i.e., I like you and I trust you. That's what your audience will be saying to you in the tribe section. And then the offer section is to get customers coming to you rather than you hard selling them. Then finally, network is scaling the business, but that's beyond the scope of this live video. So, okay, perfect. So if you look at that diagram there, and if you're interested in finding that, it's bstreetdigital.com/baton. And that's where you'll find a full description of what we're describing here in detail. And it's a full guide there actually online. So as you can see there is we've done it as a circle because we've got business, audience, tribe, offer, network. And it is a process. It's a process that you take a product and service through. So what we're not saying is you jump straight to offer. We're not saying you jump straight to the tribe. We're saying you have the business that works at stage 1. Then we have to track the audience's attention. Then we take a percentage of that audience and ensure that they like, know, and trust us. And that will be a natural process. And then we present that tribe with an offer. And then ultimately, when we have cash coming into the business, we scale that business. Now you see then in the middle level 1, 2, and 3. Essentially, a large part of these live shows, live podcasts will be focused on level 1. And sometimes we may discuss advanced techniques in level 2 and 3. Again, level 1, 2, and 3 is a process that you work through and develop over time. If you've done no digital marketing for your business at this moment in time, then level 3 will be pointless. We need to start from level 1, build a marketing base, build a brand base, and then continue to escalate from there. So that's a diagram, so you've got a visual element on it. On that note, let's now dive into the first part, which is specific around your sourcing business and getting more investors and getting more clients for that sourcing business. So the first place we're going to start is business itself. So Carl, you can bring that down and I'll start to talk them through the business, and then you can give some actionables. And to give you some context, we're going to touch on some actionables during each section. But at the end of this podcast, we're just going to go through each section, baton, business, audience, tribe, offer, network, and give you specific actionables that you can do immediately to give your business a positive result and a positive impact for your sourcing business and company, depending on what level it is. Now, let's get into the first part, which is business. You saw it as number 1 in the top corner. And it's important, firstly, to understand where a sourcing agent or deal packager, there's different names for it, but ultimately somebody who finds an investment, property, or deal within a varied range of strategies for an investor, a buyer, an armchair investor, a property entrepreneur, a business owner who's got excess cash as part of their business and they would like to invest in property. Now, what's the opposite of this? This is the best way to understand a sourcing agent. The opposite of this is an estate agent. It's almost like parallel, not so much opposite, but a parallel structure. The estate agent works for the seller of the house. Okay, that's typically the scenario. And they get their commission or fee from the seller of the house when that sale is transacted. Or sometimes they position it a flat fee up front and then there's nothing to pay afterwards. So that's how the parties play here. And then the third party in this scenario is the buyer of the house. They are not really represented as part of a transactional element in these third parties. Now, if we take the estate agent out of this scenario and put a sourcing agent in, we've got the seller of the house and the buyer of the house over here. Now, the buyer of the house is the person now represented by the sourcing agent. And then the sourcing agent charges a fee for finding a particular deal. So as an example, investor here says, I want a buy-to-let property with a 9 to 10% yield. Okay, great. Sourcing agent goes and finds sellers of properties that fit this criteria. Once they found it, secured it, packaged it up, ensured it's ready to go, the sourcing agent then tells the investor then buys this property and pays the sourcing agent a fee. Typically, that can be upwards of £2,000 for a buy-to-let. HMO, anything upwards of £4,000. And then if you're in the commercial realm, you're looking at, it's a variable rate, anything from £5,000, £10,000, £15,000, or a percentage of the GDV value of the back end. So it varies, but the value of this business is high cash lump sums. And the sourcing agent earns that. They're going out, they're building a business, they're finding these deals, they're finding the sellers, they're now marketing their business. But often the sourcing agent gets so focused on the deals that the clients are sometimes the second thought. So often you'll see online is somebody presenting a deal and saying, "Right, this is the deal. Is there anybody interested in this type of property?" Now, that's not the perfect way to do this. The perfect way to do this is have a bunch of clients lined up, ready to transact on your sourcing deal. Ideally, it should never hit the public space in regards to mass email marketing for deals and saying, "Hey, I've got this deal. Is there anyone interested?" You should ideally have clients who are lined up, ready to buy, ready to buy, ready to buy. That's going to be the sole purpose of this baton model that I'm going to talk you through at this stage. So the most common challenge, and let's take an actionable now so that you can use immediately. The most common thing we see out there is that property sourcing sites, and especially in the social space as well, overemphasize themselves and what they're about rather than the focus on what the client desires as part of this business model and transaction. So what we're simply saying is far too many sites talk about themselves, who they are, their team, their awards, their areas of expertise, all about them. And this is important. We're not discrediting this. This is important in regards to positioning yourself as an authority and as a brand and as a professional outfit within your property niche, which is now sourcing. But this should come after hooking the client. And that really comes from talking into the space of what the client needs and wants first. So the way we thought we'll do this is we'll pull up some sites. But before we pull up some sites, there's a disclaimer here. We don't have an affiliation with this site, and any examples we show, this is not a reflection of the company. This is not a reflection of the name. These are just sites which are openly available to everybody in the public. So if we're criticizing or providing some feedback on those sites, it's by no means damning them, etc. We're just using them as an example to say what's good and what could be improved, how to do it, how maybe not to do it. Are we 100% right? Absolutely not, because these sites probably have great businesses, they generate great revenue. But from a marketing standpoint, especially if you're a new sourcing company, this is a great time to grab some learning out of people who are doing it out there, who are great, and maybe there's elements that they can improve as well. So that's important to just note.
These are websites that are very high up in Google as well, so they're doing well. It's just we are looking at them for educational examples of how we think they could do better.
Exactly. So, Carl, do you want to kick this part off in terms of, let's pull up some sites. What's a good site to start with to give them an example? And if you listen to this and you listen to this via the audio and the podcast only, these examples are available in the show notes. So we'll try to describe what we're seeing here.
Sure. I'm going to go for sourcedproperty.co as a good example. They've actually recently redesigned this. So in between writing the show notes and now they've changed it and it's even better now. Sourced Property is, it's well designed, it's nice. It's a beautiful site, but more importantly, it's very much focused on the visitor, the person who is landing on the website. So up here, this is what we'd call a headline. It says, "Challenge us and you could get free legals." There is a call to action, we call this in digital marketing or in marketing in general, grabbing people right away at the top. You see this very rarely on sourcing sites. And then we want to focus on the investors, don't we?
So this is all about getting investors and clients for their business.
I'm going to jump over to the off-market properties. So our properties are off-market. That's good. If I'm looking for an off-market property, they're telling me right there in the headline. And then they go straight into what deals they have available here, which if I am a property investor, I'm primarily interested to see what stock of deals this company has. So they jump straight to that. They don't talk about themselves endlessly, and I'm going to show you some examples where they do that. Instead, they're just like, here is our menu. These are things you might be interested in. You see this in a lot of restaurant websites as well. This is a good parallel. If I'm going to a restaurant's website, I tend to be looking for the menu or the opening times, and that's it. I don't care about where their chef's trained. I don't care about where their ingredients are sourced, unless I'm a very, very particular visitor. I just want to know, are they open and what can I get there? And Sourced Property is doing very well in that respect, where they're saying, this is what we have. We have a lot of properties, so you know there's a good stock, and these are the kind of prices and the return on investment that you'll be getting. They straight to the point.
And I think also another good element there, Kyle, is on the page you land on, there's very little choices on what you need to do. So
Yep.
On the home page, there's two things. Number one, challenge us, and number two, look at off-market properties.
View off-market properties,
Yeah. And they've got an emphasis on challenging them so that's typically saying, look, we want people to go down this path. So challenge us and you can get your legals free. You can get free legals. So that's what they want you to do. So essentially what they're asking you to do is one thing when you hit that site, and they're hitting you with an incentive. So they've kept it simple. They've removed all the noise, and they haven't spoken about themselves. They haven't even said, we are this kind of company, or we are the best sourcing agents in the country. They haven't at one point spoke about themselves in terms of a descriptive way or a bragging way on their homepage in their first site.
They will do that somewhere.
Which is important for their authority.
So they're going to have testimonials. They've got reviews here, for example. They will have all that stuff. It just won't be the first thing you see, which you get to see on most sites, where they're just like, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. If I'm a visitor to the page, I want to know what can they do for me.
Exactly.
People have a limited attention, and they are very much focused on, okay, what can this do for me? So
exactly. And in this case, if you look at this case, what they can do for us or me is they could get me free legals. So if I'm a client for them, they could get me free legals. That's immediately ticking a box, because if you're thinking about legals, it could be upwards of £1,000 or even higher than that, depending on the type of property you're buying. So they've ticked the big box there. They've won. So Carl, should we switch over now to a site that can be improved? And again, this is not a reflection on the company. This is just looking at their site from wearing a digital marketing hat.
I'm going to go over to this one. This is called Outlet for Property. Again, this is very high up on Google, so they're doing business. This is a great example of quite an old-fashioned site, because you come on this page and your attention is just pulled all over the place. You're looking on the left, you're looking on the right, there's sidebars at the top. There's just a lot going on. There's no immediate thread to grab you and say, okay, this is what you should be doing on this website. Instead, you could go in so many different directions. And this is a very old-fashioned website design. So there is a difference between a website and a web page. A web page is one particular page on a website, but increasingly we focus on having one web page that has one action. So back on Sourced, this first web page is all about getting people to do the challenge us. That's the one action they're really looking for on that page. Whereas you come to here, an outlet, I mean, what do they want me to do when I arrive here?
Yeah, so I'm looking at that, and I started to read certain sentences and then stopped because I got diverted somewhere else.
It's got this is pulling our attention away. There's a picture here of a man looking very surprised. They have lots of attention grabbing images and kind of widgets, I guess these would be called. They have a weird keyword search plugged in here. There's just a lot going on, and there's no reason why you'd choose any one of these directions to go over any others.
Yeah, and they got stuff about Let's with Pets, and yeah, so they've got a lot of information on the home site, and I think the message here is great to have all of this available to users, but users who want this information will search for it, and most of this will be visible via the Google search. So if they've done great and they're ranking highly on Google, if somebody's searching for a specific problem, they will land on their specific page. But when somebody lands on the home page, ideally we just want a simplified, what's the next step I need to do business with you?
Yeah, and there is no clear path here. I think they're probably doing well because of this. Here we are. Outlet to your property professional since 1995. This looks like a website from 1995. I imagine they've been bumped up Google just by being around the longest, because the length of your domain, how long you've been around, is one factor that Google takes into account. So if these guys, with that long history and all that traffic they've built up over that time, if they were to redesign this page to make it secure, currently this is not a secure page, it's not GDPR compliant, which is problematic. If they were to redesign that and make it more modern, make it easier to navigate, this could really, knock it out of the ballpark. This could be an amazing website and dominate the industry. But just because they've been around a long time, they're still sitting pretty high up.
And can you just expand on that point you said about GDPR? Because that's a hot topic for so many people, and there's a really quick fix that can be done.
Can you see up here? So anyone who can't see the video, you'd have to imagine when you're in Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever your browser is, next to the URL, which is the website address, there will be a little like a green tick or a red warning sign. This one here has it's shown me that this website has problems, specifically insecure content, which has been blocked. So some parts of this website are not being shown to me already because it's insecure. And then on the left of the web address, it's saying your connection to this site is not fully secure. So attackers may be able to see the images you're looking at and trick you by modifying them. It's just not a secure website. If I was to give my information as an investor, there's potential that link sending my information over to this website is not secure, and that information can be captured in between.
Misused. Yeah.
Yeah. So Google is now penalizing websites that are not secure. So if we go back to Sourced, for example, on sourceproperty.co, there is a little padlock next to the website address, and that means that this site is secure. You don't need to worry about giving your information. They have encryption set up, and because of that, Google will actually prioritize this site, this secure site, over a non-secure site. And fixing this you need something called an SSL certificate. It costs about, well, there are free ones, but $10 a year, or they have higher cost ones, but really, this is something that if you know about it, you can get it fixed for $10 or so, and then you secure all of your visitors' information, and you're telling Google, okay, this is a secure website, you should promote me over other websites. Very easy fix, you just need to know about it.
Awesome. Right, thanks for that download. Okay, so I think that's plenty on the business side of things. So what we've just covered in this section is, like, we've said what a sourcing agent does, and at this stage, what's the best way to position yourself, which is not to talk about me, look at my sourcing agency, is to speak to the customers and try to talk to their needs, wants, and desires, and ideally solve their problem. And then how does this play out online in digital marketing? Well, the first thing we wanted to show you was how this plays out on your web look and feel, your web presence, your landing page presence, and we've given you an example of somebody who's doing it well, an example of a company that could improve that type of presence if they choose to. But we want to show you a contrast there. Now, remember,
I very quickly show you one more example of this is a modern website, so this looks much nicer than the old-fashioned one we saw. This is a very pretty looking website, but this is a great example of a website that's all about them. So it just talks about their awards, it talks about what they do, it talks about all of their luxury properties. At no point does this website kind of say, this is what we can do for you, and this is why you should choose us. So this is, because it might look like I'm picking on Outlet because it's very old-fashioned looking, but you can have a modern-looking website that makes exactly the same mistakes in terms of their focus, their business focus here is like, this is what we do. We do this, 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 and this, and this. Even their testimonials are saying about them. It's not like, this is how they helped me. It's, this is the best company because of this. They're the high-quality company. It's not, these people helped me to find a good property.
And if you want a real-world example of this, imagine yourself around the dinner table with a group of people, and there's always someone who spends 15, 20 minutes of that dinner time talking about themselves and their experiences and what amazing things they've done. And at no point do they ask you a question.
Yeah.
It's that, but online. So this can also take place on your social presence, etc. So remember, at the end of this, we're going to give you some actionables to take away. Now, moving on to the next section. That was the business part of the baton model. Now let's move into the audience part of the baton model. So Carl, I'm going to keep you on the mic. If you can introduce, the audience part on how should a sourcing company start to capture audience's attention. So if you can introduce this, and I'll give them some actionables off the back of that.
Sure. The primary thing is we need to build confidence and trust in what it is that we do. If we are asking somebody as a first-time transaction with us to shell out £2,000, £3,000, whatever it is, that's a large chunk of cash. And unless they have a reason to trust us, it's very hard to get that first transaction. A lot of businesses will have lower cost items that they can sell first and build that trust up. With sourcing agencies, that's not really the case.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't think of that.
I think I'm right there. Yeah, the first transaction is going to be minimum about £2,000.
Yeah, so what Carl means there is, so typically if you're selling stuff online or you're selling a product, if you think about a sales funnel, the first thing you might sell to them is a free item. Then you sell them a book. Then you sell them your e-course. Then you sell them maybe a physical meetup with you. And then maybe you're selling them a mentorship or coaching package. And that's just a typical funnel of the info entrepreneur or the information industry, which is a $1 billion industry, which is fantastic. It's teaching people stuff. So that's a typical funnel. Whereas a sourcing agent, you're right, Carl, it doesn't have there's no intermediary point from where somebody's paying £2,000.
It's from 0 to 2,000, which is
0 to some jump. Sourcing agents, however, have what's known as an orientation day. So an orientation day will be, a lower cost, maybe 200, 250 or £300. They visit the area, they spend a day with the agent, understanding their business and type of deals. So in that sense, that would be a low cost introduction. But there's many
that's why
transactions.
They're doing it. They'll be doing those orientation days not necessarily to generate income. So yes, it will create a bit of revenue, but it will be mainly to build trust with the people in that area, the people who come on the orientation day, and then they're going to be more likely to buy the £2,000 package later. Without knowing the full details of that business, I assume that's going to be the case. Orientation days will be trust building. If it's only £250, that's not going to cover the transport costs and cost of their time. So it's not going to be a money maker. It's a trust builder.
Yeah, and it's a commitment builder as well. So you're committing to a sourcing agent. Then off the back of that, you're saying, okay, well, I've already spent a day with them. I've already spent some money. So I don't mind. I don't want to shop around now. I trust this agent. I'm going to go with them. So orientation day is a great tool. But now the question is, how do we get people to that orientation day?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what we're basically looking at doing is creating an online version of that orientation day. We're going to start building up that trust earlier on. So instead of 250 being the first connection through the orientation day or the 2000, we are going to start building trust through education and showing our expertise at an earlier stage. And this is where the digital marketing comes in, because we can reach this large audience. We can reach this audience of people who are potentially interested in orientation days and sourcing deals, but we can reach them in much larger volumes for a much lower cost than if we were, sending out flyers to people and saying, come to my orientation day. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in the audience section. It's about education, first and foremost. It's about delivering value. And by doing this, we are building trust, we're building authority, and we're making sure that people actually like us and they want to do business with us. So at this point, we're not making a sale. We are starting to pre-frame the sale. We're starting to deliver value, and we're going to make that sale a lot easier. But the point of the first stage here is really about education and teaching. And very few people do this. Most property companies, or most companies in general, they jump straight to the sale. And
there's different names. There's different names for this, isn't there, Carl? So there's value selling, content marketing, education selling. But the point is to provide your audience with education in order to give them free value and ultimately educate them on what you are doing. And that's by filling the audience member with knowledge and expertise as well. And what that does is it positions yourself as an expert and an authority in their eyes, which is powerful. But the question we often get, so this is a kickback we get, Carl, maybe you can answer this, is, but I'm going to give away all my secrets. I don't want to tell them everything I do. What do I do? So if somebody asks you that question, we get clients ask it to us all the time. So what's your response there?
Sure. There's this idea that knowledge is power, and that knowledge is, there are secrets. It's like a mystery, and if you give it away, you're giving away your power. Knowledge without application is nothing. There are plenty of people out there who know this information, but they're not acting on it, whether it's in property sourcing or any other business type or anything at all, really. Without acting on what you know, knowledge itself is not very powerful. And the sad truth of the matter is you can teach and teach and teach and give away all this information. Very few people are going to go ahead and act on it. If they do, they were probably going to go and do that anyway, and you've still made yourself an ally, somebody that you can work with further down the line. Most people will receive the knowledge you're giving them and say, okay, that's great, but it looks really hard and I'm a bit lazy, and can you do it for me? And this is what happens in business again and again and again. Just because you've given them the information doesn't mean that people are going to go out and act on that information themselves. Very few people will. And remember, these are the people you're talking to are going to be investors. They have money, and they probably have money because they're either busy in a high-paid job, or they have other investments and businesses on the go. They don't necessarily want to be dealing with the nitty-gritty of, slogging around Leicester looking for HMOs. That's just not something that they're interested in. Their time's worth a lot more, so they're willing to just say, okay, here's £2,000, you go and find me the property, because for them, the value of their time means it's not worth them doing that.
And when they see you slogging around Leicester, or they see you viewing 10 houses every single day around Leicester, that's evidence to them that you're the person to be working with. So they know the process. They start to understand the process, which is viewing 10 houses, getting a checklist of info. Yeah, but exactly. Pricing it up, negotiating a discount, visiting agents, following up the deals, advertising to get off-market deals to them. They understand, they start to learn the process on a surface level in little bite-sized chunks. So this educational content is not in you're not speaking to them for 3 days or 4 days. It's in bite-sized chunks. So they start to pick up on little bits and pieces, but they don't necessarily have the entire jigsaw puzzle either. So that's another thing not to overly worry about. So me and Carl, we're doing this. We're giving away most of our tools and techniques, or some of our tools and techniques, as part of the baton model. We're not fussed. We don't have to worry about it. If it helps your business, fantastic. There'll be a percentage of people here who say, okay, I love what these guys are doing. I want to be a part of whatever they're doing going forward. And then there's a percentage of people who's going to say, actually, I've got a sourcing company. I've got revenue. I need a team of people to help me market that business. So that's the idea. So there's people who do it themselves, people who like to know about it, but not necessarily going to do anything about it. Then there's people who will actually pay for your service. So what we're doing here is a great example of talking about something and educating people in that space. So the next question we often get is, what sort of content should we produce? To be honest, simply put, it's what people want to hear about. So that's a bit...
But that requires a mindset change, because most people will talk about what it is they want to talk about. If I'm a content producer, they'll be like, oh, this is what excites me. I'm going to tell you all about it. Instead of thinking, well, no, what does the other person want to hear? And again, the dinner party example that you gave, there will be some people at a dinner party who will talk and talk and talk about his investment company or whatever it is, not stopping to work out whether anybody actually cares. Instead, if you ask questions, if you find out what questions your potential customers have, you can then talk into that space and be a lot more valuable. But most people don't do that.
Exactly. So it's what we're telling you is quite counterintuitive. What we're saying is, and I think this comes from, maybe the movies, you think as a writer and a creator, you're thinking, I'm creating what I want to create. Whereas in the business marketing world, it's slightly different. We need to create what people want to hear, what they're curious about, what they want to know. So I put this into two categories. Number one is this is tougher to do, and it's more of a consistent commitment, which is documenting the process, just simply documenting what happens on a day-to-day basis. Now there's a second element, which is what we're focused on here, which is educational selling, content marketing, educating your audience around specific topics. Now, we don't have to guess what they want to know because the internet has already populated tons of questions on what they're curious about, what they want us to answer, what they want us to know. So a great starting point is simply to answer questions that people have. So if you listen to this home and you're saying, right, what's one starting point for my content creation? It's answer questions that people currently have online around my specific property niche, which is sourcing in this specific example. So where can we do this? So there's lots of different tools, and the people coming through our Building Businesses Online property program, we walk them through thoroughly the tools available. But here's one to get started, and that is using almost a Q&A tool online, which is called Quora. It's Quora. I've never understood how to pronounce it, and I'll still get it wrong.
Yeah,
Quora. Quora. And yes, so Carl's fantastic. You brought it up there. So Quora is ultimately a platform where people ask questions and then people respond to that via answers. And those answers are then up-ranked depending on whether people found that answer useful or not. So that's the fundamental of how the site works. It's ultimately a form of social network site as well. Mm-hmm. But what's powerful here is going into Quora and identifying what people are asking. What are the questions they are asking that we can answer or tweak to give us some ideas on what to talk about? So, Carl, you've got something there. It says, what does it say there?
So this is, I'm in the real estate investing section of Quora. You can see on the right, though, the related topics. There's also commercial real estate agents, commercial real estate investing, property management. There are lots of different sub-niches that we might be interested in. I'm just in one of the general ones for now.
So that's a nice question to start with. So let me give you an example, because the next question is, how do we do this? Well, simply put, let's create an article, let's create a video and answer the question. So the first question was quite good, Carl. If you just scroll up.
Which one? What are some rookie mistakes of first-time house buyers? I think this is more for somebody buying a residential house.
That's fine, but what I want to do with the audience listening is just tweak it slightly, which is, what are some rookie mistakes of first-time property investors?
Yep.
So it's like pulling questions and pulling ideas. So you can take the question literally, or you can be inspired by the question and apply it to your personal niche. So that's an example. What else do we have?
The third one was quite good. In real estate investing, is owning a rental property worth the headache? So in the UK, this would be are buy-to-lets worth the headache, for example?
That's a good question.
And this has, I can't see the data here, but it's got over 100 upvotes. There's probably tens of thousands of people interested in this question on Quora. Nope, that's not helpful. Did you get into real estate investing and regret it? What happened?
That's a good one. So if you just put your hat on and think, okay, I'm a sourcing agent, I'm listening to Hans and Kyle give me some ideas on what content I can produce. So think about how this can inspire you to talk about certain topics. So did getting into real estate investing, did you get into real estate investing and regret it? So did you buy a property investment by yourself and regret it? And that's when you have an opportunity of talking about what's the advantages of working with a sourcing agent. So it allows you to talk into that space. You may have personal scenarios where you personally was on the road in the early days and you wish somebody was doing what you was doing as a sourcing agent for them, but your capital starting position was low, so you decided to go ahead and build a sourcing business. So that's another great question. Well, let's do one more and then we'll move on to the next section. I
just want to point out the answer here is really good. The top answer is somebody talking about losing a lot of money, $40,000 on their first investment, but saying, I don't regret it at all because they learned from that and they went in again and they went in with a much smaller rental property investment after. So that's a way of answering a question like that in a very positive way, saying, yes, you can make certain mistakes, but you can also learn. And if you're a sourcing agent, this would be a great lead in to kind of saying you need to make sure that your deals are solid. Oh, by the way, that's the kind of work that I do. I do that sort of due diligence. So this is the kind of question that could be really useful for a sourcing agent.
Exactly. And just to put some emphasis there, yes, we're asking you to sell your service and self as well, but if you just have some perspective where we are still in the audience section of the baton model. So the intention here is still not to sell. It's still not to create a transaction. It's really here to build your authority, position yourself as an expert in your property niche and industry. That's the key here.
Very soft at the moment.
Very, very soft. You can talk about yourself. That's not the idea here, but it's through the vehicle of education.
Yeah. Have a few more. What's the best way to get onto the property ladder with little capital? What's the reason behind millennials why are millennials buying less real estate? Yep. So these are all questions that could be answered by you as a property expert. These are all good jumping off points.
Nice, fantastic. So hopefully we've given you some ideas and a tool there that you can use almost straight away. You can head over to the website, go find your niche, go find your area, and that should hopefully inspire you on topics and key elements that you can speak about in the form of education. Remember, we don't need to sell at this stage. If you remember the baton model there, the challenge is if you do, you're skipping the tribe, and you're skipping the audience and the tribe section, and you're only focusing on the offer. That's known as direct marketing. That's known as hard selling, cold selling. That's selling to a cold audience. So if we want to put some different language about it, what we're also doing as part of the baton model is warming people up, building trust, and positioning yourself as an expert and authority. If you're cold selling, this is where you're going to have to overly talk about yourself, because you need to big yourself up in order to build the expertise and authority across to the client. Whereas if you follow the baton model and system, you don't have to. So now let's move on into the next section. Let's assume now that you grab the audience's attention. They're starting to like and know what you're producing, and they start to see you as an expert within your sourcing property niche, which leads us nicely onto the tribe section. So the tribe section is the next part, and this is where a percentage of people now like, know, and trust you. There's you can call them raving fans, you can call them different things. There's different ways to describe these people, but ultimately these people have given you permission to continue to speak to you. That's important. So if I'm sitting here, if you're listening to this and it's episode number 1, if you're still listening to episode number 7 as part of this Building Businesses Online series, you've now given us permission to speak to you. You're now as a part of our tribe. You're now part of our following. And if you had a business, we'd be vice versa if we had an interest in your specific business. And that's great, because then you'd see us as an expert and an authority in this specific field. We want you to position yourself the same way with your audience. We want people in an annual basis who have a savings pot to know that the go-to person for sourcing property within a specific niche area is you and your business. That's the point which we want to get you to. That makes the offer later on a lot easier. So it's ultimately, you have permission to that specific market space, and providing them much more value in the early period of the transaction than what they're paying, which at this stage is nothing. So if you're watching this, you've paid nothing to get this piece of value, which is probably going to be an hour and 20 minutes.
That's not entirely true, though, because time and attention is now a currency online, and we talk about something called the attention economy. So even if somebody's not giving you hard cash, if they are giving you their attention, that nowadays is worth a lot, because people's attention spans are ridiculously short now. I think 7 seconds is the newest figure.
7 seconds, goldfish is the newest figure, yeah.
No, goldfish is 8 seconds. So we're not winning. And back in the 1980s, I think it was about 20 minutes. So attention nowadays is more valuable than cash.
I guess that's because there's so many options available.
Yeah, absolutely. So people are still paying you, they're just paying you with their time and attention rather than in cash. So
okay, so if I put some better context on that, is like you're now paying attention, but if my value is through the roof versus the attention that you're giving us,
yep.
then the trust and authority gets built up. So if we're taking attention as an currency as well, I think it's a really good point, because that time is so extremely valuable. If you're giving us your attention for this particular video and the value we produce is through the roof, then the trust and authority gets built quite quickly. And that's the same thing you could do for your sourcing company when you're talking of answering questions in a public space. So ultimately in the tribe section, these are people who now like, know, and trust you, and they've given you permission to speak to you. If you think about it in the social media context, in the simplest form, it's somebody who's following your social account, somebody who watches your video on a weekly basis, somebody who listens to your podcast on a weekly basis, somebody who goes and reads your weekly blog publication, looks at your Instagram stories on a daily basis. They have started to become as part of your tribe because they want to hear, see, and just what you're talking about. I guess that's the key here. So, Carl, talk to me about and all that whole. What do people do online? What's their focus online in terms of what do other property sourcing companies do online, and what we want our people listening to this to just like maybe change direction and maybe adopt some of the strategies that we're speaking about in order to get more clients?
Sure thing. So I'm going to bring up my screen. I want to show you a very standard example of how a sourcing agent would operate is these direct ads. So Harm's just talked about direct response ads. They do work. They're just very, very expensive. And if you get them wrong, you'll lose a lot of money. But can you see these ones here? They go straight in and they're like, this one is invest £50,000 and 12% net return. So they go straight in with the numbers. If I'd never heard of these guys, the chances of me clicking on this link and then calling them up or sending an email and investing 70 grand is relatively low. There needs to be far more touch points, and that's why we build a tribe. It gives us a way to contact the people who already want to hear from us again and again and again and again, and keep building that trust, keep building that that trust that we have the expertise, we have the knowledge in our particular area. So instead of going direct to the sale, we build up to it. Now, there are a few ways to do it in property. Because property in general is very large ticket, we do need to build a lot of trust. So therefore, probably the best way to do it is to set up some kind of face-to-face meetup or group. I mean, we see a lot of these in London, where I'm based. In particular, there are hundreds of them, and I'm going to pull up a few examples. In-person meetups are really the next step because you are moving towards this high-cost item. So we can use the online audience building valuable material, answering people's questions, but then use that to funnel people into an offline group. We can do online groups too, via Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups. Even if you are doing this, so I'd still recommend having some form of meetup, just again because of the high prices that are involved in property. And what I'm going to do is open up Meetup, which some people don't know about, so it's really useful to show you. Meetup is a website that allows groups of people to organize themselves around certain interests, and the interests can be extremely, extremely niche. I've looked here for property networking groups in London, and you can see we have quite a few. What I'm going to do is look for the biggest ones, so sort by most members. So here we are. The UK Property Network London Victoria has nearly 4,000 property investors. These are more business related. Property Network 1,500. Rent to Rent, this is 1,300. Female Property Alliance 1,300. These are big groups. And these are the kind of groups that if you are the leader of that group, if you are the leader of that particular tribe, that puts you in an extremely powerful position for connecting people, for brokering deals, for feeding your own deals into that community as well. And we can use meetup.com, to start to find these people, and to get them into a room. And initially, it's going to be meeting in a pub, upstairs in a pub, absolutely fine. But it will grow and grow and grow until you have potentially 1,000 people, depending on where you are. I myself have a couple of meetups. I think cumulatively over 2,000 members across different meetups, and that's within the last year, without any particular no paid marketing or anything like that. That's just people come onto Meetup and they find like-minded people who they want to interact with. So there's an incredibly valuable value proposition here for you in Meetup, and this is a tool that so few people know about, that you can go in, become a leader, and build an offline tribe that's going to be, I mean, massively valuable to your property business.
Exactly. Especially if you are a sourcing agent, then it is extremely powerful. So to give you some context, we are digital marketers, but it's always business first. So we're using the best form of marketing, which is relevant and applicable to the business itself. So the reason we've recommended a face-to-face meet, as Carla said, it's a high ticket item. To transact with 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 pound sourcing fees, you want to physically see the person, you want to physically see the sourcing agent you're working with. And that's from an investor point of view. But from a sourcing agent, you also want to have a filter of people. So you are almost hand selecting the best clients as well. Because if somebody's buying a deal off you, and they've just seen you for the first time, they're buying the property deal, you have to question their level of due diligence. Because in the long term, if that deal doesn't work out, you don't even know what their expectations are. If that deal doesn't work out to their expectations, it might not be a bad deal, but we're talking about expectations here. They could have, a void. If you're sourcing a HMO, they've got a couple of voids in 6 months' time. The person they're going to be speaking to and challenging is going to be yourself, because they don't know the process. They don't necessarily understand property. You haven't educated them on the realities of property, and you haven't filtered them down. You've just caught them with a headline and you transacted with them. And it's almost like a cold transaction. We're not really sure what their expectations are. So almost the best way to vet somebody is to have somebody follow you, like you, know you, and trust you for a period of time. So yes, there's some work involved here for a period of time. Maybe they attend your meetup, 6, 7 meetups in. They're like, yep, now I get it. I understand what this is about now. I understand how to get the yield. I understand the risks, the dangers, and also the positives involved. And I want to do business with the person, the leader of this tribe. So that's the power of the meetup. And it starts with 10 people and it grows into thousands, as you've seen here. Yeah. So what is the digital marketing element here? The digital marketing element here is the meetup platform that we're leveraging. But then you're going to have to get into your business mode offline.
Yeah, exactly that. There are online versions. There are things like this is Property Tribes in the UK and Bigger Pockets in the US, which they're fantastic sites, and you could build an online tribe around yourself using one of these as a jumping off point, moving people onto Facebook or LinkedIn, and then building an online group in that way. If we were going purely digital marketing, that's what we would be telling you to do. But because we are starting from a business first point of view, really Meetup is going to be the way. And that's us as digital marketers telling you this. Really, this should be us. We're shooting ourselves in the foot by telling you to go offline. But use meetup.com to build that offline community as quickly as possible. So that's the digital tool which will help you offline.
Exactly. And the online tools, that's the level 2, level 3 of Baton. Some of our students are working through that process now about creating online groups, etc., for their property-specific businesses. And they've been recommended to use Meetup as well, but they are solely focused on the digital marketing side as well. So we've expanded on those areas. Now,
and it will do your business niche as well. If you're selling something cheap, then online might be okay, just online. But at this point, when your first item is £250 or £2,000, face-to-face is going to be the way to go.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to the next part of the Baton model. So what we've just discussed there is what a tribe is, how to build a tribe using the tools of digital marketing available to you. And now we're going to talk about bringing in the cash. the part that business owners are most reliant on, and because it is fundamentally key to keep the business going. Without the cash coming in, the business doesn't survive. So now the next part of the baton model is offer. So let's discuss the offer stage and give you some actionables here as well. So Carl, keeping you on the mic here, do you want to start talking to the audience listening at home now on offer, and then I can go to the actionable part of things?
Yeah, I'm going to hide myself. So as we just saw, this is the normal offer. You're seeing it on screen here. It is this buy now, come to my website. So let's go ahead and click on this one. Let's have a look.
You can shrink me as well. I'm 50% of the screen at the moment.
That's a good point. I can
Awesome.
shrink. There we go. Oh, this is not a bad page. Yeah, this is an okay page. It's got an emotive headline. So it says, "Be an investor, not a landlord. Invest in fully managed UK properties today." And it's got a picture of a guy relaxing by his computer. So that's an emotive sale they're going for. It's get rid of the headache of managing your own property. Give us your money instead and we'll do it for you. And then, yeah, this page is fine. It's still a lot as an initial sale. If you are going in and saying, have you got a spare £70,000, we can give you 12%. That's a very specific sale. Without building up the trust, I'm not sure how well this page would do. To be in their favor though, their call to action is requesting a free investment pack. So it's not a button to send them £70,000, which is good. That's a start at least. But still, this is a very aggressive way to try and get somebody to buy from you, especially with this level of investment. And this is what we see again and again and again online. Is just
so what they're doing is they're skipping, right?
Yeah, they've skipped straight to offer. So they are hoping that I have £70,000 burning a hole in my pocket, and I just need to get rid of it with anybody, and that I'll see their advert and be like, okay, you have it, that's fine. That does work because you spend so much money on advertising that eventually you are going to hit a few people who fit that criteria. But instead, by building up an audience, by building up a tribe, we can have, well, there's two things. We can have a lot of people who want to transact with us, and more importantly, they want to transact with us and they're queuing up to do so, rather than us having to go out to find them with each deal. So when I find a deal, let's say I'm in Sterling and I find an HMO, I will know, this would be great for Marie. This is the perfect kind of deal for this particular person in my tribe, instead of me having to go online and say, this is the deal I have. So that's what we ideally want to be doing. We want to have people queuing up for our deals, and then it's a matter of us finding the right ones and supplying them to the existing demand. Whereas this right here is trying to create demand just by jumping in front of people and saying, hey, do you want a good deal? Which is very expensive to do, extremely expensive. So
exactly. So can you expand, Carl? The next question is, okay, so how should we've created some content, we've educated an audience, we've started to put that a consistent amount of educational content out there. We built a tribe. The people who know, trust us, they know we're an authority in the area. So how can we use a tool online? What's a great tool that we can use online? And I'm sort of hinting on remarketing here.
Sure.
That can help transition them from naturally into the offer phase, leveraging online tools. So this is outside of a meetup. Now this is using an online tool.
Yeah, we'll come back to online. And as you say, there's a tool called remarketing. Have you ever gone onto Amazon or Etsy or any other kind of site, looked at a cordless Hoover, and then found pictures of cordless Hoovers appearing all over the internet, following you around in the sidebars, at the top of Google, just everywhere? Suddenly this cordless Hoover is following you around just because you happen to look at one on a particular website. This is remarketing, and it's one of the most powerful marketing tools used online. Basically, if I look at a product, on a certain website, my information is captured, and then that product's going to show up on all the different content partners of the initial site. So if it's Amazon, for example, Amazon will pay different websites money to keep showing me that cordless Hoover with a link back to Amazon. Remarketing is basically a way of continuing to provide messages to somebody you know is already interested in what it is you have to sell. So in our example, we're putting out value into the world. We're putting out videos on Facebook and on YouTube. We can actually see how many people have watched how much of those videos, and we can say, okay, this person has watched 50% of my my hour-long video. They've watched me for half an hour. They're probably interested in what I have to say. They're not as interested as somebody who's watched 100%, but they are more interested than somebody who's watched 5 seconds. What I can then do is I can go back and I can show that person, the person who watched 50%, more content. Or I can send them an advert directly because I know that they've engaged with me. I know that they are interested to an extent in what I have to say. And because of that, I can re-engage them using the tools that Facebook, YouTube, Google, all of these different platforms give me. For property sourcing in particular, we would show educational content, talking about property investment in certain areas, for example. And this allows us to get an idea of what these certain audiences like. So let's say I put out some content on student properties in Liverpool, and I know that 100 people or 1,000 people have watched this, and I know that a particular person, Sally, let's call her, for instance, has signed up for a newsletter or has signed up for a free ebook. I now know that Sally, based on this material, based on the fact that she signed up for an ebook, she's interested very directly in student properties in Liverpool. This gives me a massive amount of information. I can then use remarketing to deliver an advert like these ones that we saw here, but directly to Sally, saying student properties in Liverpool, get more information here. And because of that, it's going to be so much cheaper to send out that advert than it is to send out this cold advert to everybody. Google and Facebook and all these different platforms, they reward me by giving me cheaper advertising costs when I want to get to somebody who is already interested in that particular content. And that's what remarketing is about. And it's something that a lot of small business owners do not use. They don't necessarily know about it, but it's the best way to pull down your marketing costs dramatically by a factor of 10, 20 times. So it's massively cheap comparatively. So that's the main thing we want to be doing when we're getting to the offer stage, is only offering whatever our deal is to people who have already interacted with our brand. They've already watched our videos, they've already come to our meetups, and as a result, they know who we are, and they're much more likely to make a purchase when we do go to them. That's
Exactly.
really marketing.
Exactly. No, I love that explanation, Carl. That's fantastic. So again, when we're talking about digital marketing in the offer stage, there's a crazy amount of ways to do this. You know, chat apps, landing pages, email capture, email marketing campaigns, a sequence of emails which have upsell, downsell funnels. But without over complicating it, what we're saying is somebody has watched content that they like. So Liverpool, HMO Liverpool student properties. And off the back of that, we can send them a specific advert based on their interest. And this is the advert which is now asking for a sale and a transaction. Now they're comfortable with this because they've already given you permission to speak to them. Will they buy? You know, we don't know initially, but the chance of them transacting increases because they already have shown interest in the subject area, which was Liverpool HMOs. Now let's put a parallel spin on it. Say, for example, we've got somebody who's interested in high capital appreciation flats in central London. Now, they watched videos on that as an example. It may not be yours, but they are interested in that. We've identified this. Now, there's no point sending them adverts on Liverpool HMOs and hoping they transact because we know what their interest is. We may want to send them more content videos in the audience section to re-educate them on why cash flow is maybe better up north than a London property down south, because we don't know why they're buying a London property. So we can we can have a content feature that says 5 reasons why people prefer buying London properties, and actually use it as a counterintuitive content piece. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm just getting into the weeds now. But so what can we do in terms of an actionable here? Well, to be honest, if this is typically, it's not something people use as part of their business anyway. So the actionable right now is to make sure you're focusing on the audience part of the section, not necessarily jumping ahead and offering. So if you're offering at the moment and you're sending out direct adverts, your actionable may be considering, have we done enough content marketing? Have we done enough audience attracting as part of this baton model and structure? Do we have a tribe of people who have given us permission to speak to us? Has that been done? How do you obtain permission? Custom audiences, which is remarketing. Email capture, that's another way to get permission. That's through subscribers. People who follow you on your accounts, they have given you permission to speak to them as well. So one of the actions is basically, if you have jumped ahead to an offer, maybe come back a couple of steps and start to create educational video. Because that's typically where most people have a challenge. They just skipped. Now, the next question we get is, yeah, but what about this remarketing? How do we leverage that? Well, if you're producing videos and putting them out on Facebook, you can go back retrospectively and create custom audiences on people who've watched your videos in the past.
Yeah, without meaning to. As long as the video's less than 1 year old, you can go back and remarket to the audiences of your previous videos.
Exactly.
So just focus on audience for now.
Yeah. So if you've already been doing this, thumbs up. You can go back in time. The key here, however, is to do it via a Facebook page. Now, that's where we want to leave it at this stage. So typically we'd walk into network, but that's about scaling the business. And that talks about level 2 and 3 of the baton model. It's well beyond the scope of this because it does get quite complex. And then we do actually start introducing some of the more complex tools that digital marketing has to offer, which I sort of mentioned in the introduction. So we don't want to get into that so far.
And people get excited by that stuff as well. They're like, oh, it's the advanced stuff. I'll just jump straight to that.
Yeah. People get excited. Let me have an automated chat bot. Let me get that introduced into my business. Yet they haven't produced no content videos.
You get the fundamentals down first, and then you can start playing with the nice, shiny, technical toys. People get too excited.
Yeah. And a nice way to put it is, if you have the money for it and you've built a marketing foundation, then start introducing these things one at a time, then test and tweak and understand, is it the right tool for my business? Because not all of these tools are applicable to every business. So let me just end on some action points, because Carl kindly just spoke about a large section there, which is tribe and offer. Let me end with some action points, which are just extracting some of the stuff we've spoken about already into some simple bullet points that you can action. Bear in mind that the show notes are not available at this time, but they will be. And if you want to have access to the show notes, what you need to do is go to bstreetdigital.com/blog, leave your email address in there, and we'll put out a notice, certainly for episode 1 of this, that the show notes are now available. So let me now go into the actions that you can do within each section of the baton model. So business. The actionable within business is simple. In your online presence, identify if you're talking about we, us, I, or me, and instead start to change the language and the marketing headlines and the way you speak to your clients about you, them, how you can help them solve their problems. So it's a we, us, I, me versus a you, them, the client. So let's start to put a focus on the client. We'll show you some examples on how to do that. And it's a good starting point. It gets you in the mode of mentally solving their problem as well. The next element is audience. So what can we do in audience? Really simple. Head over to Quora, start to look at questions people are asking and answer those questions into the public space. It's up to you what platform you want to use at this point. We're big fans of Facebook as marketing tools currently. Next is tribe. Now, the actionable for tribe is really at this stage just to research what communities are out there in the sense of online communities, meetups, forums, what establishes tribes are out there, and be inspired by what they do, and just take the best, what model them. What's the best things they do? What are they good at? They're good at this, 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 and this. I'm going to extract that and use that as part of my tribe. Maybe go physically, go to visit some meetups and understand what they do. I'm probably more than one action here, but take the best things and the things they don't necessarily do well. Maybe there's Facebook groups out there and they treat those groups as a sales fest, a sales pitch. Look at my service, look at my service, look at my service, without anybody really building some trust and positioning themselves as an expert. They're just using it as a cold, hard marketing tool. So maybe you don't want to implement that within your tribe. Then finally, offer. There's nothing at this stage in regards to offer. Just focus on creating content. That's the key here in order to build a long-term authority and allow the permission to present an offer to your community rather than the opposite, which is direct advertising saying, hey, buy my offer, buy my offer, buy my offer. We instead want them to say, I'm interested in what you have to offer because I've been following you for a while and I want to get involved. Let's get your sourcing business to that stage. Carl, you want to add anything to that before I close off?
No, I think that's perfect.
Awesome. So, Carl, have you enjoyed this first episode? Awesome. So, massively enjoyed the first episode. Of course, let us know what you've enjoyed and let us know if you have a property niche or other business niche that you want us to discuss in detail. So I'm just going to close off now with thank you for listening for this episode on how to market your business. And if you gained one insight, one idea that will have a positive impact on your business that you can start using straight away, then subscribe, follow the page. You can share this live message with somebody or share this podcast depending on how you're listening to it. And if you just give us a thumbs up. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Leave us a comment. Say, thank you. I took this away from it. And finally, the show notes will feature on the website, which is bstreetdigital.com. For now, just simply leave your email address in the blog section and we'll let you know when these show notes are available. So again, thank you for listening to this, how to market your sourcing company in order to get more clients and investors. So this is Carl and Harms signing out. Take care and we'll see you on episode 2.
See you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.